Hi guys, and welcome to this next hobby tip, and this tip's all about working with resin miniatures. So I just picked up some Antique Games Walking Dead Whisperers and they're resin, and I thought, hey, it's quite a good example to just take through the basics as to how to handle a resin miniature, because it's totally different to plastic. Resin miniatures are made in sort of latex moulds, and they have a releasing agent sprayed on the inside of the mould, so that's obviously upside down, so that'd be the top of your mould, and then it'd prise apart, and there your miniature would be. So the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we clear that releasing agent off, and it's a bit difficult to see, but if you have a look on him, he's a bit shiny, and that would mean that paint wouldn't adhere to that. It would just sort of separate and split and things like that. So the first step, lukewarm water, so not boiling, not unless you want everything to be drooping and things like that. And we need to just wash the components, okay? So I've got my little tub, a bit of washing up liquid in there, and an old toothbrush, and a bit of rag. So the first thing we do, drop them in, and just give them a good scrub, okay? Might be a bit counterintuitive to be washing your miniatures, but I like the first step. Just make sure you get a nice sort of lather on there. We're just getting rid of that releasing agent. And no matter which resin you get from which company, they're always going to be the same, okay? They all use some form of releasing agent on there. I have to admit the Mantic models are very well made, and they seem to be a very high quality. It seems good if you were to buy from Forge World, for example, things like that. The first step you should always do is wash off your miniatures, okay? So we'll put them out to dry. Base, so absolutely every component is going to have this releasing agent on, so just give them a clean, okay? Because we want a paint to adhere properly to it and things like that. And then particularly these components, because these are quite small aspects, and again that would sit in top of the mould like that, and it'd be sort of filled up to the top, and then it's a bit of a sinkage as it dries. And the only way of getting these components out is to use that releasing agent. So obviously we don't want that on there when we come to paint our miniatures. So use arms and a leg, a scrub. Okay, and I'm being quite delicate. I mean, these are quite substantial miniatures, but you can get some sort of quite sort of small components and things like that, which just be a bit sort of gentle with them. We don't want to snap them and break them. Okay. So I'm quite happy with that. So aside that goes. And there we go, so there are our components. So we're going to dry them off now. I've just got a bit of tissue paper. We just want to get those aspects off. And there we go, he is no longer super shiny. So we've got that agent off him, okay? Base as well. And his various knives and arm and things like that. Okay, tapping it down. I'm not trying to applying too much pressure on the smaller components because I don't want it to break, basically. So resin can be a bit more forgiving, but it also can be a bit more brittle on the smaller parts and things like that. Okay, you get more detail with it, allowing them to give you individual fingers and so on and so forth, but it might come apart. So what we're going to do is just let that dry thoroughly, and then we'll come back to cleaning the components up and building them. Okay, so now that we're confident that our miniatures are sort of dry, we're going to come to cleaning. There's sort of four main aspects. You're going to need super glue. Okay, resin will not stick with anything other than super glue. So super glue is the glue of choice here. I've got my pair of clippers with a precision point because I want to be able to snip as close to the components as possible. I've got my trusty old knife. I prefer this curved blade knife just because it lets me get into the real sort of like minute details. And I've also got some sandpaper, really fine grit sandpaper, and I'm going to show you why I need that first. So the first component I'm going to work on is the actual base. So obviously I'm going as close to the edge of the base as possible, snipping away. There we go. I'm going to use the knife just to this point here where the mould went in. I'm just going to scrape that away. Okay, so resin, you can do quite a lot of work with it with not a lot of sort of pressure. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that aspect, but because obviously I'm taking off larger bits with a knife, I want to use my sandpaper to number one go around the edge, okay, so that's nice and smooth, but then also it might sound ridiculous, but Mantic do well because their bases are actually flat. Some companies are a bit more difficult at making a flat component, so I always put your base face down. So that's the area I want to actually be on the tabletop. And just run circular on a piece of sandpaper and turn it over and do the same. Done, one base. Sandpaper can go aside now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate all of the other components, and I'm going as close to the miniature as I can, snipping away. Same here, so like with feet and things like that, I'm running my clippers parallel to the soles of his shoes and things like that. I take away the little sort of, they have like these little drains in the moulds, and it's so the resin gets into all the detail. So take that bit away first, and then to your main one, okay? So there we go, there is components. Okay, so at this stage now, I'm going to bring back my knife and start just tidying him up a little bit. And there's not a great deal to do, it's just smoothing things out. The detail on there is going to be a lot better than on plastic, so we don't want to take it away, but we do just want to make sure that the edges are smooth and so on and so forth. So if you see into what I mean about detail, you can actually see his eyes behind the mask and things like that, and you're only going to get that with resin. His foot. There we go. Moving on to his other leg. So there's even the tread on his boots, you know, is visible. So let's just make sure that we don't delete all of that well thought after sculpting. And the knives. Now the knives are going to be slightly different. And what I mean by that is that they have a little sort of knobble on the end which needs to come away. So we're just going to clip it off. And then carefully with our blade, just going to make that look like a knife. Alright. Now there's a slight bend to it, but we can sort of, at that stage, just sort of bend it back. If you ever got a component and it was bent, really bent, if you put it over the steam coming out the end of your kettle, that'll sort of allow you to sort of straighten it. You don't get that. You get that more with certain kits, is all I'll say. But you can, heat is your friend, just be careful, you know, don't scald your hands off or anything like that. And if you're one of our younger hobbyists, do ask an adult to help you with this sort of aspect of the hobby. Just going to take the end off the knife, again, just nice and neat. There we go, and that again is relatively quite straight. Okay, so I'm just going to clean down the surface and then we'll stick them together. Okay, so he's all washed, dried, trimmed, ready for his night on the town. So, but we need to stick him together. So, test fit the components just to make sure they go in. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attach his leg. So any brand of super glue will do this. Super glue is super glue. Some people prefer gel super glues. I just get the cheap stuff. It really does just do the same thing. So I've applied it to one half of the component. I'm going in there and then I'm just putting a bit of pressure in. And you will be amazed how quickly that will stick. There we go. So straight away, it's a nice fitting component. Don't really think I'm going to have to do a great deal of work to that. So now we can start sticking on his arms. So I've got that arm there, and I always test fit, you know, you can test fit it, see what it looks like, see if you want to make any changes or conversions or anything like that, you know, do it before you stick stuff together. So there's going to be a slight gap there under his arm which we'll fill in with some putty, which is fine. And then on the other side we need to just make sure that the aspect fits. Picked up some black on him there. Okay. Yep, so tiny bit of glue. And we're going to put his arm in. Okay. And now onto his feet. So he should, because we flattened the base and flattened the soles of his shoes, he should stand flat. Moment of truth. There we go. So while that sets away, let's put our lid on our glue and let him dry for a moment or two. So it really is as easy as that. The key is washing, and it's using super glue. So there we go. There's Beta from the Whisperer faction, all in resin. A really nice detailed model, which you'd only get with resin. There are a couple of areas under the arms that we're going to fill in, but what we do with that is use our liquid green stuff or epoxy putty or something like that when he's fully dry, and just gap fill him as you would normally. Well, there we go. That's working with resin. So quick oversight as to how to handle this different wargaming material, but it's yeah, it's fun. Have a go, see what you think. Do be careful if you're going to start using heat and steam and knives and so on and so forth, guys. But thanks for watching. Ooh, almost. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Let me know how you get on with your models, and as always, happy hobbying. Thanks, guys.